Hey everybody, it's your boy VG Time back again with another deck profile. Now recently I played in the Top Cut Regional and I decided to play something rogue. That's something that you guys know I'm about. I play, whatever tickles my fancy at the time. But there's a reason why I choose the decks that I choose. It's not ever really a case of I just like this leader or I just wanted to play it, with a few rare exceptions. You can also just play it because you want to play it, and regardless of the results. But typically, if I choose to play a rogue deck, it is because I believe there is something that this deck does that exploits a weakness in the meta decks. So let's get into this deck so you can see what I'm talking about. So what we have here is the Yard Rat Goku leader, or also known as Dripku, or as I like to call him, Yardiku. So basically, this is a unison based deck. So because of the invention of Smoke Dragon, a lot of decks have started removing their unisons, playing unison-less, or if they do play unison, the unison is not so integral that Smoke Dragon really matters that much. As such, smokes have been moved out of the main decks to a lot of people's side decks, and even if they do have it, a deck like this that runs so many of them doesn't really care about it. The other thing that makes this deck an interesting choice into the meta is that there are two main floodgates that are used as far as negates. That is Riposte and Android 17 Defender of Friends. This leader gets around both of those floodgates. Now there's one other floodgate that matters, and that is the Vegito floodgate. But even then, you're not 100% worried about that because of the leader's skills. So you get to deal with multiple floodgates without actually having to pack stuff like Tyrannical Blow or anything like that. So what does he do? On attack, takes a life, top 5s, plays the units in rest mode with an energy cost of 1 with a marker on it. That allows you to generate free empowering, which is what you really want to do. You make the guy, you tick it up, then you empower over it, 1 cost unison, and get effects. Then once you get to 4 or less life, you untap 1, draw 1, flip them over. On the back, you swing, you draw a card, and then you get to play up to 1 unison from your hand with a marker on it. That's what it costs of 1, of course. So it's kind of, in a sense, better than cooler in that you're able to get both effects off. But then you have the game-winning ability, so to speak. Paying double yellow is to activate main, to restand them, put 8 unisons on the bottom of your deck as a cost, of course. Double yellow, 8 units at the bottom of the deck. Restand them, 10k double strike. So the second swing is usually like 25k double strike at least. And then you have your defensive activate battle, which allows you to spirit boost X once per turn and give your leader +5 for the battle for each marker removed off the unison. So overall, pretty solid leader. There are holes that I'm still trying to solve, which I'll go over when my thoughts section at the end of this. This is going to be a long one, guys. So link down below if only you want is a deck list. I'm not going to be mad at you. Just leave your boy a like on the way out. And if you really want to support the homie, leave a comment. And if you're not already subscribed, do so. It's free. Doesn't hurt anybody. Anyway. 3 copies of Gohan the Empower and 4 copies of Trunks the Empower. This is the typical engine that people have been playing. I'm not reinventing the wheel for this. So just so you know what these guys do, these were promos, and basically when they're replaced by another unison, you get to search the opposite one. So it helps you to filter through your deck real fast. Gohan is a blocker and Trunks is not. Gohan +1 is that you get to restand them at the end of the turn. This makes him a really good play off your top 5 when you're going second, if you don't have pressure in your hand. So you get to just play this guy in rest mode for free, tick him up, and now you have a blocker to go along with your energy being open. Trunks, on the other hand, allows you to cycle dead cards out your hand. So you +1, pitch a card, draw a card. So what happens usually is that you end up getting several unisons in your hand that you can't use, The downside is, guys, that you are not cooler, so you don't get to activate battle, pitch a unison, and give yourself plus 5k. So as such, if you have extra unisons, you can cycle them into more useful cards, hopefully. The other thing this guy does is he allows you to get an extra card out your hand that might be hard to use, or that you don't want to spend the energy on to set up a riposte play. Both of these also have permanents that give them +2 for each marker during your turn. That's decent for hitting early game, but honestly, you're not going to hit like Awakened Leaders with that skill. At least not most Awakened Leaders. Then we have 4 copies of Vegeta Z Fighter. This card right here is our removal for 4 or less arrest mode when you empower him. He also allows you to, when you play him and he's empowered, to give him +5, so he's a 9. And his +1 gives him +6. So even if you don't play him empowered to the 3 markers, you can at least swing for 10, but you're hoping to swing for 15. When this guy is sent to the drop area, you are able to draw a card. So the way that we take advantage and trigger all these things and get the maximum values, of course, we play 4 copies of Piccolo Z Fighter. So Piccolo Z Fighter, when it comes into play with 3 or more markers on it, you are able to draw a card. So you combine them with any of these cards, he's a raw draw too. So you either search another card or you just draw another card and then you draw off of him. Usually I like to order it with the search then draw, so you don't draw the card that you would search. Just, a heads up. He, of course, +1s becomes a 15k beater. He does not himself do any replacement effect when he is sent to the drop, but it is what it is. Sometimes it's worth, swinging with him and then like empowering a Vegeta, popping something, swinging with the Vegeta, and then playing another copy of him and drawing 2 cards, assuming that you already had him out there for a turn or so. Then we have our boss monster, so to speak, which is 3 copies of the Gohan unison. We all know this card is nuts. It's a staple in yellow for a lot of yellow decks anyway. Not all of them, but a lot of them. In this deck, though, you get his maximum potential because usually you have like 4 to 5 unisons in the drop when you're playing this. Sometimes even more if you got out of early trunks and you started cycling. Usually also when you play this, you're getting value because you're usually playing it over a Vegeta or one of these guys. So you get an additional card. You get the +1 to draw if you wish, or you get the -3 to give him and your leader +5 until the end of your opponent's next turn and get this card triple attack. It's a blocker, so usually on the first triple attack you only swing twice and then you leave him up to block. Of course, on play, if you don't know, he pops battle cards arrest mode, ignoring barrier up to the number of unisons you have in your drop. Now, this leader got indirectly buffed. One of the things I like to also do, which leads to my rogue nature, is that I see cards printed, maybe meant for a particular archetype, and I say, well, what other archetypes could benefit from, or what other leaders could benefit from these cards, and try to see how many decks I could put these seemingly generically powerful cards into. So that's where these come into play. 4 copies of Goku Vegeta. Before the deck used to run Turles, this card is just a strict upgrade in most aspects. You still get a 20k double striker, you still get a popper for cards arrest mode, except for he only costs 1 energy, and he also negates the skill of the card, so you get around things like Indestructible, you get around things like the Android 21 SCR with its pseudo protection. You just play this, you get rid of it, you get around Cell Max, which came up when somebody else's game, where they were able to play this out to Cell Max and then kill their opponent. Then we have the new Vegeta from the trial deck. He works with Vegetas, Gokus, and Evo Wizard Babidis that are yellow. 25k cantrip. Can't go wrong with that. If you have 3 or more energy in his swings, you get to pop a battle card arrest mode. And if you have a Goku card in the battle area or in your Z energy, it gains double strike for the turn. Now next we have our general utility cards. We already know what we're supposed to. I'm not gonna go over them. We will go over though briefly this Goku. So this is the gate made for the deck. Again, a lot of people have never seen this card, but you negate, it comes into play in rest mode, and you are able to send it to the drop and Spirit Boost 1 to rest an opponent's battle card or draw a card. If the card you rest costs 5 or less, you get to KO it. So again, it's a great negate against tall boards or against boards that don't go terribly wide. You just get to negate, rest the other guy, and if it's, you know, again, smaller, you get to pop it. And again, it replaces itself. 3 copies of Vegito. Again, you want to counterplay. Most of the counterplays in yellow are kind of dead. This is the only one that kind of is worth it. Simply because of the amount of deflect that still runs around on cards, even with costs like 5 or less, just deflect everywhere. So playing this gets you around things like the SS4 plays and things like that. What you want to make sure though is that you have the window to play it. And when you combine it with Repulse, or you play 2 copies of this card, or how we work it out, it usually ends a turn by itself. Super combo. This right here I'm going to have a brief discussion on. So if you're a long time viewer of my channel, you know how I feel about, you know, different super combos. I'm usually a big fan of 0-10k all the time super combos because of either early hyper aggression or cards like the SS4 Gogeta that threatens to take you from like 5 to 2 if you don't have a way of comboing out of it early. So I had 2 choices for super combos, and the one I primarily am going for is 3 copies of Yarvat Goku. The reason for it is that it is a Sun Goku, so if you do combo with it, even if it's early on to protect your life total, you are able to turn on your Vegeta by having it in your Z energy. This does require you to be 4 or less to draw the card, so that's kind of the downside. The other card I was trying out for this deck and it has worked out decently is Shizami. Shizami draws a card if you have a unison in play, which is almost always the case. So when you're going against Red City, you're going against whatever, and they're coming straight for your face, you have the ability to combo, draw a card, and possibly get out of the attack, which is what you want to be doing. But again, the upside to be able to turn this card on versus the -1 from my hand if those early game situations do come up and for some reason I don't have a repulse or this guy to get out the situation. Yeah, that does come up, but I think turning on the Vegeta is just way better. Of course, fourth super combo is the ultimate Piccolo Gohan. There's actually quite a few ultimates you can run with this deck. The other one is the Mira ultimate. It's not the worst card. You get to play it, pop 2 things. You get a pretty powerful unison that does some cool stuff. You also have access to what's it called? Bardock, which I think is also a very solid finisher. You also have options to play that new extra card one, which is kind of cool. But I have not pulled it myself, so I do not play it. But I don't see a reason if you have this card not to play it in this deck unless it's in another deck and you don't want to take it out of it. 1 copy of Imagine Boo. I think it's pretty much staple in yellow at this point. My overwhelming choice could have been a lot of things, but because we have so much removal built into our general kit, I decided to go with Vegeta Feigned Greeting. This just makes it harder to combo out. Like, they're usually down to their final cards. You play this, you warp a card out their hand, then you swing 30 and force them to be able to combo out at 30 with 1 less card in hand. Now we're going to go over the extra cards. We do play Repulse, so we have to play extras. We have access to 3 copies of Release. This card does a whole lot. One of the things it does is it's free. Second thing it does is it shuts off certain leaders. This card existing makes the SS4 matchup a little bit better, and it makes Gamma almost blowout if they're not checking for this card. But most good Gamma players know that if you're playing yellow and you're playing unisons, this card is in the deck. This also helps you to lock down multi-attackers. There was a game I had on stream where my opponent went into Golden Cooler, ripped my hand down to 5, which was, quite a bit of cards. And then he thought it was sweet, swung with the cooler, got hit with the release from Evo. The cooler couldn't withstand, couldn't do anything else. And then I was able to clear it on the following turn with like a Gohan situation and then kill him. Flat on Flash. You might think it serves the same purpose as Release from Evil, but it kind of doesn't. It does and it doesn't. So the reason why I play Flash is because Flash solves a huge issue with the deck, which is that the deck doesn't have a terrible amount of combo power, right? So when the games I lost was because my opponent would combo to like 30 or 35, and I didn't have the either markers on the unison because I already used them for a previous big attack, or I just didn't have the combo power in hand even though I had like 8 or 9 cards in hand, because half of those 8 or 9 cards were unisons that I had as redundancy in my hand. Flash would allow you to be able to at least get a 115k combo, so to speak. And also Flash allows you to get out of an attack and blink the bigger attack. So you can flash something smaller, blink the bigger guy that might have the double, triple strike, and then now you don't have to worry about that guy anymore. Granted, that guy is probably still swinging, but there's only 1 damage. So unless you're down to 1 life, you're not really worried about it. 2 copies of Time Magic. So Time Magic and Release kind of occupy the same space, except for Time Magic is a hard negate. Being a hard negate matters in certain matchups. And also it is sparking, so if they do actually smoke you and you're tapped out, you have the ability to use this to stop their multi-attacker. And then we have Power to Super Saiyan, which allows us to do Power to Super Saiyan things. So next we're going to go into the Z deck, where we will be discussing what new options we got there for the deck. And then we're going to go into my side deck that I ran. And that way you'll be able to see my thinking, my thought process, and things like that. Three, two, one. So here we are with our Z deck. Pretty straightforward. So you got access to this new Goku from the trial deck. The Goku works along with the 4-drop Vegeta that we play main by allowing you to swing with it, untap that guy. Usually you had the Vegeta out there already, so you're for 2 energy getting 3 attacks, 25k, which is really good. You also get to remove 2 battle cards because this pops anything in rest mode. This doesn't have barrier, and then the Vegeta pops 5 or less in rest mode on the first swing. It also Z stacks 1, so I do play 1 copy of the Majin Buu. If you do have the spare 3rd energy, you can pay 1, play this out, and you are able to get 2 more attacks in for that 3 energy of 19k. And then this guy right here can't be removed by skills until the end of your opponent's next turn, and has a activate battle that allows you to rest one of your opponent's battle cards. So that also helps you get out of a few things. Vegeta. So Vegeta serves 2 purposes. We already have great barrier removal for things in rest mode in the form of the Gohan Unison. Sometimes though there's things in active mode that you really need to get rid of. Main deck. So you play this, you pop it, you're good. The main reason why I play it though is to close out games. So if my opponent is down to low cards in hand and I have the 3 energy to spare, use it, pop a guy in rest mode. This guy gains critical, and then you get to swing with crit. and not give him resources as you're trying to close out the game. And he's of course dual attack. Goku to lock down opposing leaders or their big dumb threat that you don't want to deal with. And then of course it's a barrier attacker, so he's pseudo safe to go in on to close out a game if they're at 1 or something like that, depending on what the deck is, of course. We have Oolong. Oolong is a staple in yellow Z deck, so it's what it is. We have Gamma 2. I'm probably the only one that really loves this card, but I have drawn so many cards off this card when I remember to use it. If I know I'm going after life that turn and I want to get as much value as possible, I'll use this card, remove it, do a skill, and then I'll start my swings. And if you're going against like blue or yellow, for instance, you're going to draw a bunch of cards. It just is what it is. Issues is, again, you got to kind of remember is there. 2, it is pretty bad against green due to charismatic, but again, green isn't widely played, so you're not really worried about that too much. But yeah, like what'll happen is you're going to either draw a bunch of cards or your opponent is going to not negate your attacks and prevent you from drawing a bunch of cards and try to combo out of things. Either way, it works out for you. All right, my side was interesting. Some people were like, huh, that's weird. But I think my side is actually solid. Can it be better? It could definitely be a lot better, but it's solid. So one of the things that you need, especially like in an SS4 matchup, is more hard negates. And the reason why you want that is mainly for the early game, because the hard negates allows you to limit the amount of Z energy they could generate. Especially once, you know, they drop the unison and you have an alternative target to attack into. So if you could keep them from generating card advantage, like heavy card advantage and generating Z energy, you are, in the early game, you are putting yourself in a position where you took away a lot of the sting of the leader. So I wanted a free negate. I wanted something that wouldn't take my life. So we play Android 17, Thwarting the Enemy. This is one of those Spirit Boost battle card negates where you Spirit Boost 2, you play this in rest mode, and you negate the attack. It also has the added benefit of making it so that if you negated the leader attack, that leader cannot attack again. That is very important when you're going against certain matchups that may come up or may not come up. But one matchup where it comes up is Android 18, because some people really like that deck and the Z leader gets to restand and do all kinds of shenanigans. You could stop it with that. 2 copies of Whis. Whis allows you to punish 3 decks. Golden Frieza is the most obvious. Soul Striker is a little less so. And the third and least obvious one is Android 21, the new one. So what happens is if you open this card and you're going second, your opponent is usually used to their certain plays, which is turn 1, they play like a speedy sub, they take a life, all that stuff, right? Usually you're going to swing on them, so they're going to take another life, go down to 6, and then on their turn they used to taking a life, doing their search, playing the Z battle card, taking a life, and then on the opponent's turn have the option to untap an energy, tap that energy at the end of their turn. I mean, they have the option to untap an energy because they have the Z battle card out there. Then they tap the energy, make the 4-drop, do the ramp. Typical plays. So for the longest, I was trying to figure out how do I deal with that 4-drop. I mean that 2-drop, and you have 2 options. One of which is the Tyrannical Blow, which I use against that deck as well. But it's mainly for that, or against like other decks that have like a very important 2 cost or less Z battle card that just gets some immediate value. But the other way is play this guy. So you go second or whatever, you play this guy, you draw a card, and then you pass to your opponent. And a lot of times your opponent will forget that this guy pops energy. They can even ask you, you go, yeah, that's what it does. But because they're so used to their muscle memory, they will sit there and go, okay, end of turn, untap this energy. You go, okay, cool. Auto, pop that energy. And now they're back down to 1 while you're at, whatever energy you're at. And it sets them really far behind. 2 copies of Gohan Videl. This is for niche matchups. Sometimes you need to really deal with like a small floodgatey guy, or you need to deal with a key piece that has barrier that's in active mode for relatively cheap. And you can pay yellow, pitches from your hand, and -5/2 things ignoring barrier. Great against Cumber, great against agents, great against Trunks Cheetah. Just overall, it's a solid card. And then if you're in a situation where you have it in your hand and you no longer need it, you can just pitch it to the Trunks Unison, draw a card, so on and so forth. 2 copies of Cunning Trunks. We all know that this is for primarily 21. This is also just useful against other random decks that are blue and untaps energy. Three copies of Realm. Realm is brought in for the wide decks to help you to be able to get through your turns. You usually use this to get out of 1 attack, tap 2 other things, and draw a card to replace itself. One point in time it was main deck, but the matchups where it's amazing, it's kind of few and far between, and it's just good. But in the matchups where it's amazing, I bring it in. And then of course we talked about T-Blow. So our deck automatically gets around 2 of the floodgates. There's other floodgates that don't. So if I'm going against like red, for instance, I bring this in because I want to deal with the Gohan counterplay. I want to deal with Topos. And you're even willing to like burn one of these, get yourself out of crown range, right? So they're gonna crown you, you T-Blow, you blink another one of their cards, and now you don't have to worry about crown because you're at 1 like energy or something like that. So my overall thoughts on the deck, now that I've played it at least 10 rounds or so, I love this deck. It does so many things well. But it does have a glaring hole, and that glaring hole is that its defense is lacking. It has a lot of strong negates and things like that, but its ability to combo, which is I believe your primary way of defending yourself in this game, is very, very lackluster, and thus you have to rely heavily upon negates and things like Release from Evil and Final Flash to be able to get you through attacks. But yeah, a lot of potential. I think it's really, really strong. It's on my short list of decks to play for the next regional now that I have more experience with it. So I'll catch you again, and this is VG Times signing out.